Chaplain Lindsey Williams has been an ordained Baptist minister for 28 years. He has the unique distinction of being pastor to the global elite. He, through a variety of circumstances over the years, has become, if not a confidant, certainly a repository for information about what really is being planned by those who would rule the world. He joins us every month to bring us the latest information on globalist strategies and activities. Chaplain Lindsey Williams, welcome back to the Global Freedom Report.
It is a privilege to be on the Global Freedom Report, and thank you so much for letting me be with you today, Brent. But, you know, I am utterly amazed every day, I guess, that I live at how these elite are able to do exactly what they say they're going to do. Of course, I've been watching this for 35 years' time, since the day I lived with them. And, of course, for those out there in the listening audience who are new, and I know you have many new listeners, Brent, I had the privilege, by the providence of God, of being invited to be the chaplain of the elite for 3 years' time. That was about 35 years ago. And since then, I've kept in touch with some of these people. Back a number of months ago, one gave me, a number of them actually, I guess, gave me the agendas that they plan to carry out through 2012. And I am sitting here right now, literally dumbfounded, watching one of them happen, and it happened this week. You're going to see more and more of this. The capital city of Pennsylvania. Yeah, you're right. Now remember, I said this back, what was it, Brett, about a month ago when I had the privilege of being on your show, and I said one of the agendas of the elite for 2012 is to create such massive debt before the crash is allowed to take place. Massive debt in countries, states, cities, banks, no matter what it may be. Then when they step in and are ready to take them over, they'll hold the paper and the New World Order can be brought in according to their. It happened this week. The capital city of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, this week declared bankruptcy.
Actually, Chaplain, I have to tell you, it's not just Harrisburg. We just got the word, I think yesterday, that I'm not sure if it's Montgomery. It's one of the major metropolitan districts of Alabama. Big time. Big time.
Yes. And you're going to see more and more of them. A year ago, if I had said that there were going to be bankrupt cities and bankrupt states.
My guest is Chaplain Lindsey Williams. He is, it's a fairly accurate designation to say that he is the pastor to the global elite. He indeed gets to hear what their plans are, and he comes and tells us whatever he can once a month, and it's a pleasure to have you back. Chaplain Williams, before we get back into what you were talking about with the bankrupt economies, I'm curious, do you find yourself more distressed at the current times in which we live, or more, I don't know if the right word is relieved, but that apparently we're finally coming to the point? You know, we've been leading up to it for so long, and finally it seems to be happening. It's kind of like saying the political or the elite end times are here. Does it make you feel more distressed or more relieved?
More relieved. In fact, if God had given me an opportunity to decide what period of time I wanted to live in throughout all of time, I would have chosen 2012. Not really. I am so glad I'm living today. I'm 75 years of age, just as active as I was when I was in my 40s and 50s. I am thoroughly looking forward to 2012 as the most exciting, the most unusual, the most eventful year in 2,000 years. And Brett, if people know what to do, they should have no fear whatsoever. They should never lose any sleep at night. No need in looking behind bushes. Don't look for black helicopters. None of that is necessary if you know what to do. During the Great Depression of 1929, great fortunes were made. People were able to survive quite well. Who knew in advance that these things were going to happen? And that's what happened to me back a few months ago, Brent. As you know, I did not appear on a single radio talk show for nearly 4 months. I was scared to death at what I had heard. I mean, I literally was concerned for myself and for others And I had to prove it to be true. And then about a month ago, I gave some of it on your show. And basically what it was, these people, positively there is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. I say that without any hesitation whatsoever. And by God's providence, years ago, I was invited to be the chaplain to these people and lived with them literally for 3 years, have kept in touch with some of them over the years, and they gave me some information back a number of months ago that literally scared me. And I said, I must give it out to the world. And one of those things, Brent, was the elite have a number of agendas for 2012, and one of them is that they intend to create massive debt before, did you hear this word? Before the crash. Why hasn't the financial crash already taken place? There's a reason why. The average person doesn't know. And I read the latest newsletters that they're writing. The result of their computer analysis and what they say have happened in the past. And I watch these newsletter writers. I love them. Oh, I thank the Lord for so many that I have a great admiration for. It's just one thing. They need to talk with the elite themselves and find out why the crash hasn't already taken place and why it's not. Oh, my goodness. I know. Watch out now. Please put this down on a piece of paper and put it beside your calendar and watch it. Why the crash hasn't taken place yet and why it won't take place until they have created such massive debt that every country in the world, every state in America, every city within this country, every bank is in this massive debt, and then they will, in their timing, allow this crash to take place so they can bring in the new world order and the new currency. I do not know the date that it's going to happen. I wish I did. They haven't given it to me. And please, everybody out there in the listening audience of Global Freedom Report, please stay in touch with Brent in his show every single day. You've got to listen to it because there is coming a crash. And when it does, you want to be ready. Please don't let up your preparation. You can't. You can't slow down one bit. You must get that preparedness food in. You must buy that gold and silver as quick as you can. You say, but Chaplain Williams, you're saying that they're going to create this massive debt before they allow the crash to take place. But do you realize that along with this is going to be the destruction of the dollar to the point that it has such low purchasing power that you won't be able to buy those preparedness foods. You won't be able to buy that gold that you said,
this is like Germany, or actually revolutionary America, if you really want to go back, no, that's exactly what happened. You had, the bread lines, and you have a barrel full of currency to get a loaf of bread. And yeah, we've been talking about that for years. I assume the answer to your question as to why it hasn't happened is because the globalists have not flipped the switch, if you will. Okay, that it'll happen when they decide they want it to happen rather than any market forces. But I've assumed that for many years.
It should have happened the last year of the administration of George Bush, our previous president. Instead, they brought in QE1. And then they knew it. They knew in advance. They know what they're going to do now with QE3. Then they brought in QE2 and held it off a little bit longer. Now they'll bring in QE3, and at the same time they're buying Greek bonds, they're buying Italian bonds, they're buying all the paper they can possibly get their hands on. The elite are. Yes. Why are they buying it? They know they'll never get paid back. They know that the interest on those bonds is nothing compared to what they're going to lose. But yet they keep on buying them. And as my financial person told me the other day, he said, Chaplain, you don't understand. He said, the reason that those bonds are being bought by the elite is so that when the crash does finally take place, they just merely step in and say, we have a new currency, we have a new world order for you, we already hold your paper, and you have no choice. You'll have to accept our new world order and our policies and our new currency. They intentionally are purchasing all of the paper they can get their hands on in these European countries that are on the verge of going bankruptcy. They are purchasing the bonds of cities, and the Federal Reserve is bailing out billions and billions of dollars to banks everywhere across America. Why? They want them in the state. They want to hold the paper to those things. The Federal Reserve is not an agency of the government of the United States of America. It's no more federal than Federal Express is. And there's no reserve there whatsoever. And whenever they step in, they are the elite, and they hold the paper to all of these things. So when they get ready for the crash to take place, they basically can own it.
So, okay, since you brought up Italy and Greece and such, let's talk about, because it really is the big news out there, the impending collapses of the euro and the EU. How are those interrelated to the whole discussion? Is that is the euro collapse also going to be waiting for all of this to happen?
Okay, I will give you and I'll give you his name. Many of you know that one of my informants was named Mr. Ken Fromm. Some of you have Googled his name, and you found out that he was everything I said he was over all of these years, and many of you wondered for years if Lindsey Williams was really telling that he's in touch with these people. And he told me before he died about 8-9 months ago. He was 87 years of age. And before he died, he made a number of predictions for me to watch out. First of all, he said, Chaplain, whenever the Federal Reserve begins to buy its own paper, he said that's the beginning of the end for the dollar. Again, there was a prediction that when the euro crashes, the European Union is in big trouble. There's trouble of division. There's also trouble with the euro as to how long it can stand. Whenever you see the euro crash, you have about 2 to 3 weeks to get out of every single piece of paper you're in. I don't care what kind it is, whether it's Federal Reserve notes, whether it's 401ks, whether it's IRAs, whether it's mutual funds. I don't care what it is, bank accounts. If you do not get out of paper within 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks after the euro crashes, you will lose it. It is all planned. If it's written on, if this was again the expression that was given to me before this gentleman passed away, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. And whatever that tangible is that you have, if it's not held in your hand, you cannot depend on the fact that it's for real. And don't put it in a safety deposit box. And don't go out there and buy shares in a gold mine somewhere because they're written on a piece of paper. I've had so many people, Brent, lately to email me and say, Chaplain Williams, can I hold gold mining stocks? And I email them back and I say, if it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You must secure your assets immediate. Okay, let me give it to you. Here it is right here. Go look it up for yourself. Don't you change the dial now, but you go look it up after the program today. Here's the fact. Foreigners. Now, there are some people out there in foreign countries who realize that the elite are doing certain things. They have listened to their buzzwords, and they have gotten the message, and foreigners dump. Here goes. Write it down. They dumped $74 billion in treasuries in the past 6 consecutive weeks. Why? They're getting out. They're getting out of paper of every kind. They realize how worthless it's going to become. They see the handwriting on the wall as to what the elite are doing. So I will give you a prediction now also in light of what they told me just a matter of a short while back that startled me so much. There is an agenda of the elite that by the end of 2012, all private fortunes will be lost that are secured with paper. I hope you got that. I hope you wrote it down. I tried to say it slow enough for you to hear it. There is an agenda that by the end of 2012, all private fortunes will be lost that are secured with paper. You must get out of paper. You must get into securing your assets as quickly as you can. Some foreigners have already seen the handwriting on the wall.
Hang on. Let me ask you this, okay, because we're talking about the global elite. We're talking about the big executives in the oil companies. That's who we're talking about. What if you went out and bought stock in oil companies?
If it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on.
I hear that, but, I mean, wouldn't that be like cutting off their own noses? I mean, wouldn't you assume that if the one thing that's going to remain healthy are their oil companies?
Oh, they will. They definitely will remain solvent and healthy after everything else is gone, and whenever they take the price of gas. I guess you're right in that sense, Brent. I'd never thought about that. You know, I usually think of paper being the stock market, 401ks, IRAs, and so on. But you're right. If you went and bought stocks in oil companies, you're right. You'd probably be about as safe as you could be in any place on the face of the earth.
I would think so. You're basically you're piggybacking on them, and whatever you do is insignificant compared to what they're doing, and so you just kind of ride the wave. Just the thought. Let me ask this. Last time you were with us, and time before that as well, you have told us that a war in Iran is not in the cards. The global elite do not seek it. However, Israel and the U.S. are clearly ramping up rhetoric to justify a war with Iran. Has the global elite position concerning Iran changed? Are we going to war with Iran?
You know, back about 3 years ago, when Mr. Fromm was alive, and he knew everything that had been planned behind closed doors. My present informant knows some things, but doesn't know as much as he did. And I went and asked him the question. He said, no, there won't be war with Iran within 2.5 years, and yet all of our military over there ready. He said, Chaplain, it's nothing but saber rattling. It is not to Israel's advantage to do this right now. First of all, the United States of America, just before an election year, can't stand with them. Secondly, both China and Russia sent a communique this past week to the United States of America. You might have caught it on the national news and you might not. And they said, do not mess with Iran. That wasn't the words they put it in. They said, do not go into conflict with Iran. I just put in my expressions. It is my opinion personally that you're seeing a lot of saber rattling. I could be wrong. I am not saying that my elitist friend told me this, but I have had no indication from them that there is going to be a conflict with Iran, and I know that they will be. When there is, they'll know about it. I do know this, and many of you will remember that 9 months ago, after it started in Egypt and then went through Mubarak, and I went to them, and I said, what in this world are you doing? And they told me everything. And I put it in a 3 DVD series entitled The Middle East, the Rest of the Story, and told the whole story. And people said, how did you know this? And I said, they told me it wasn't going to be with Iran, but instead they were going to create one conflict after the other all over the Middle East, finally winding up with Saudi Arabia, then taking the price of crude oil where they want it to go to bring in the American oil fields. I cannot see at this point anything but saber rattling in relation to Iran, and I'm really not that concerned about it.
Okay, and that's fair. That's why I wanted to ask you the question. Earlier today, before you came on, we did several stories about the Occupy protests that have swept the United States and the world. Now, these protests appear to many to be centrally organized, or centrally guided at least. Can you shed any light on this? Who or what is behind the Occupy protest movement, and what, if any, role do they play in the global elite agenda?
Well, here I'm afraid that I'm going to have to say something that won't necessarily agree with many things that are being heard out there. I was told by the elite that they will, any way possible, they will keep down civil unrest and do not want anarchy. They do not want civil they do not want these sort of things. They do not want these disturbances. They want to bring in their new world order their way. They want to finally get things to the point that people will beg for the new currency, beg for the new world order, and the riots are not necessarily in their plans. Now, who is doing what's being done by the Occupy Wall Street movement? I do not know. They won't answer me that. But I gather from what they tell me about other things in relation to it, they don't want riots. They want to bring in the New World Order their way.
Do you have any globalist insights you can offer about the U.S. elections? I'm not talking about the ones that just took place. That's right, folks. This actually is November. But next year, the big elections, is Obama still the poster child, or is his usefulness diminishing? What can you tell us?
I have not the slightest idea. I will put it this way. There's one of the wives of one of the elite that here's what her husband says, and from time to time, being a wonderful lady, she emails me and gives me some things. And I gather from what I'm seeing that they're not necessarily too pleased with Mr. Obama, yet on the other hand, he has done everything that they wanted him to do. So I don't think it really matters to them who gets in, because regardless of who it is, they're going to control them. They have that much power, and they do. So I have not been able to get an answer from them as to who their person is for the presidency of the United States of America.
How about our next 30 days or so? Any kind of prognostication, anything happening over the next month that we should be on guard about, or that we should take action or preventive action on?
2 or 3 things you definitely should do, and you should do it immediately. First of all, don't expect a financial crash, a complete financial crash. The destruction of the euro and the dollar, I don't think you're going to see any of this take place in the next 2 to 3 months, but you must, while the dollar is still strong, and this is my second recommendation, while the dollar is still wrong, please make every preparation that you can possibly make. I know that people are not buying gold and silver right now. My next suggestion would be, I do not sell gold and silver. You couldn't buy it from me if you tried. Brent can tell you where to go and get it. But I beg of you, please, right now the price is down. They brought it down intentionally for them to be able to themselves secure their assets. They're buying it by the tons, while the rest of the American people have let up on their purchases. I beg of you to get what you're going to get, because the price of gold and silver is literally going to go through the roof whenever they have secured the amount that they wanted, and they're buying it right now by the tons. All of those things you need to look forward to. And more and more in the Middle East, you're going to see conflict. It's going into Syria. It's going into Yemen. It's going into Bahrain. The last place it'll be is in Saudi Arabia. Mark it down and watch it take place. And these are some very unusual events that you need to make preparation for.
Excellent. And we will see you also before the end of the year one more time. I want to make sure people have contact information. And by the way, any latest, newest reports? I know you had 2012, the beginning of the end, last time you were here. Is there anything newer than that?
Yes, we sure have. In fact, we have already had to update 2012, the beginning of the end, twice. Now, those of you who have already gotten it, and that was only, 2 weeks ago that we came out with this. This is brand new, 2012, the beginning of the end. We've had to update it twice because of a number of things that's taken place. Please jot down our toll-free number, if you will. The number is 888-799-6111, or you can go on the web if you'd like to prophecyclub.com. That's www.prophecyclub.com, prophecyclub.com. Our latest presentation just came out about 2 weeks ago. 2012, the beginning of the end. I tell you, every agenda of the elite through 2012, you must see the devil's Messiah.
And I got to stop you there because we're out of time. Chaplain Lindsey Williams, it's always a pleasure. I will look forward to seeing you sometime in the next few weeks back on the Global Freedom Report. www.prophecyclub.com or call toll-free 888-799-6111 and ask for 2012, the beginning of the end. God bless you, Chaplain Williams.
Thank you, Brent, for allowing me to be with you.